Hello, I'm Mike Hayes, Editor-in-Chief of the AI Super Campus of mini books and time-saving summaries called Mike's Notes on AI subjects, stories, and tools. Now, to explain more about today's mini book subject, here's my personal AI Publicity Agents.
We are taking a deep dive today into a really fascinating stack of notes and curated excerpts.
Yeah, the material by Mike Hayes, right?
Exactly. It's titled The Sources Behind the AI Super Campus. And if you, as a listener, have been feeling like the whole artificial intelligence landscape is just, this massive, chaotic flood of daily updates and conflicting advice.
Oh, it is totally overwhelming. New models dropping every week.
Right. Well, consider this deep dive your navigational chart. Our mission today is to unpack these sources because they offer a surprisingly human-centric approach to what the text calls the age of conversational intelligence.
Which is such a great phrase for where we are right now.
It really is. We're going to explore how blending top-tier AI tools with, social science and a philosophy called loving grace might just be the blueprint for local communities to actually thrive.
Okay.
Let's unpack this. Where does the concept of an AI super campus even begin?
So to understand the campus itself, the author, Mike Hayes, frames the whole endeavor around a historical, or I guess a mythological metaphor.
We're Prometheus statue, right?
Yeah, exactly. He writes about his time working as an NBC documentarian in New York, and he'd walk past that famous golden statue of Prometheus at 30 Rockefeller Plaza, every single day.
And Prometheus, just for a quick refresher, is the titan who stole fire from the gods and handed it down to humanity.
Right. He gave us the ultimate power tool. And the source draws a direct parallel there. Every time humanity is handed a massive new power, whether it's the literal discovery of fire, the printing press, mass media, or, conversational AI today.
We completely freak out.
We do.
Yeah.
The population immediately fractures into two distinct camps. You have those who see its profound potential for warmth and progress, and then you have those who are terrified by its potential to just burn the village down.
Which is a valid fear, honestly, because fire itself doesn't care. It's entirely neutral. It cooks your dinner or burns your house down, depending entirely on whose hands are holding the torch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the text suggests we are standing right at that exact frontier with AI.
So how does the super campus deal with that? Because you can't just hand people fire and say, good luck.
Well, they root their entire curriculum in a very specific foundational philosophy. To ensure the quote-unquote good wins out, they lean heavily on something called constitutional AI.
Right.
Which is the framework developed by Anthropic to power their AI model, Claude.
Let's break that down for the listener a bit, because constitutional AI sounds like a political science term, not software. How does an algorithm have a constitution?
So traditional AI models are essentially trained to just predict the next word based on massive amounts of internet data. And as we've seen, that can lead to unpredictable or sometimes really harmful outputs.
Yeah, definitely.
But Anthropic changed the game by giving the model a literal set of rules, a constitution that it has to check its own responses against before it even speaks.
So it's double-checking itself.
Exactly. It's programmed to prioritize being helpful, harmless, and honest above just, sounding plausible.
Okay, so the super campus takes that software framework and applies it to the human operator. And they distill it down into a guiding principle they call loving grace.
That's the core of it. The source notes this concept of using AI to manifest positive human outcomes was actually a major topic of discussion at the World Economic Forum.
I have to jump in here, though.
Go ahead.
Loving grace sounds like the mission statement of a weekend mindfulness retreat, not a prompt engineering class. How does a digital algorithm, literally a string of codes sitting in a server farm somewhere, actually practice grace?
Well, it doesn't. And the text is very careful to make that exact distinction. The machine does not possess a soul, and it doesn't inherently understand grace.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, the content is entirely about the intent of the human operator. Loving grace is the conscious, deliberate choice by you, the user, to leverage AI specifically to manifest human well-being, empathy, wisdom, and safety.
In your daily life and your local community.
Exactly. It's not about the machine. It's about you.
It's essentially a user manual for the human heart applied to a digital interface. It puts the responsibility squarely back on our shoulders. We have to be the ones with the moral compass because the machine is just the engine.
Precisely. But having good intentions is only half the battle, right? If loving grace is the philosophical destination, navigating this technology requires actual hard skills.
Which brings us directly to the methodology the campus actually teaches. They aren't just handing people like a cheat sheet of keyboard shortcuts or top 10 prompts.
No, not at all.
They are advocating for the study of what Mike Hayes coined as a new social science, which he calls AI reasonability.
Yeah, AI reasonability.
The ability to reason. I do like the play on words there, but I honestly struggled a bit with the origin story provided in the notes.
Oh, really? Which part?
Well, the text mentions that Hayes and his colleague Nacol Thomas, who is an executive MBA graduate from Oxford's Said Business School, they lectured this group of 253 MBAs.
Right, the Oxford connection.
Yeah, but they weren't studying code or computer science. They were analyzing a city. Espoo, Finland.
Well, Espoo was statistically recognized as the most sustainable city in Europe at the time.
Right, but what does a sustainable city in Finland have to do with teaching people how to use AI? That just feels like a massive logical leap to me.
It seems totally disconnected until you look at how Espoo achieved that sustainability. What's fascinating here is that Hayes and Thomas weren't studying their green energy grid or like their solar panels.
Okay, so what were they looking at?
They were studying their growth strategy. And that strategy relied entirely on narrative storytelling. The city used the power of human narrative to align an entire community toward a sustainable future.
Oh, wow, I see.
Yeah.
So the solar panels didn't change the city. The story changed the people, and then the people built the solar panels.
You've hit the nail on the head. AI is fundamentally an alignment and narrative engine. If you don't understand people, if you don't know what story you're trying to tell or how humans process information, the AI just generates noise.
That is such a crucial point.
Right. The Oxford MBOs realized that to use AI effectively, you have to master social science first. Technology doesn't drive change. Human behavior does.
That reframes the whole approach. And it inspired the 4 pillars of AI reasonability that the Super Campus teaches.
Let's walk through those.
Yeah, so the first pillar is human perception. The source defines this as basically learning to see clearly and recognize reality.
Think about what that actually means when you sit at your computer. Say you see a viral video of a local politician saying something really inflammatory.
Like a deep fake.
Exactly. Human perception is the trained ability to notice the weird visual artifacts around the mouse or the unnatural cadence in the voice. You cannot act appropriately if your perception of reality is hijacked by a fake video.
Makes total sense. Then the second pillar is human reasoning. This is critical thinking and judgment. It's taking what you perceived and evaluating it.
Asking the hard questions.
Right. Asking, why is this video surfacing now? Who benefits from me being angry about this right before an election?
And then the third pillar is human imagination. Once you've perceived the data and reasoned through it, you envision possibilities.
Like how to fight back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How could I use these same AI tools to create a counter-narrative?
Yeah.
How can I communicate the actual truth effectively to my community?
And finally, the fourth pillar is human action. Taking thoughtful, responsible execution based on those first 3 steps. And I think it's important to notice the deliberate repetition there. Human perception, human reasoning, human imagination, human action.
That repetition is the whole point. The ultimate goal is not artificial reasoning. You aren't typing into a chatbot, hey, figure out this local zoning law for me so I don't have to think.
Right, you're not passing the buck.
No, you're using the AI to process the dense legal jargon so that your own reasoning is sharper. You are bouncing ideas off it to uncover your own blind spots. You aren't outsourcing your intellect, you are augmenting it.
So instead of using AI as a crutch to do our homework, this is like using AI as a mental sparring partner. The goal isn't artificial reasoning, it's developing human reasoning.
That is a perfect analogy.
But, reading through these notes, it becomes incredibly clear why we need to be in such peak mental shape right now. The Super Campus isn't just training people to write better PTA emails or, optimize local marketing campaigns.
Not at all.
They are preparing people for a highly aggressive threat landscape.
Yeah, and this is where it gets a bit scary. We are dealing with a meteoric rise in what the author calls true AI crime. The text uses a very specific phrase for this, the super AI mafia.
Which sounds like a bad cyberpunk movie.
It really does.
But the mechanics detailed in the source are very real. These are automated, highly organized global crime rings. They leverage the massive scale of AI to operate internationally, but they attack locally. And the notes heavily emphasize that they target the vulnerabilities of seniors.
Because the automation changes the entire economics of scams. Previously, a scammer had to spend an hour on the phone to trick one person, right?
Right. It was labor intensive.
Exactly. But now, They can clone a grandchild's voice using just a 3-second audio clip pulled from social media. And then they have an AI agent simultaneously call 10,000 grandparents in the middle of the night.
Wow. 10,000 at once.
Yeah, using localized data to ask for bail money. It costs them practically nothing, and it's basically psychological warfare at scale.
To combat this, the AI supercampus obviously relies on technological defenses, things like setting up Google alerts to notify you about the latest AI fraud tactics. But they argue tech is just the perimeter fence. What they are really advocating for is a human firewall of education.
Yes. The source positions everyday people, you, your family, your neighbors, as the actual firewall.
And I struggled with this concept initially, I'll be honest.
Why is that?
Well, when I hear firewall, I think of enterprise-grade cybersecurity code, military encryption. This source argues that you and I and our grandmothers are the firewall. Can a family really out-educate organized, automated global crime? I mean, if I teach my grandmother to establish a safe word for phone calls, is that really a firewall?
Well, a safe word is just a localized tactic. The human firewall goes much deeper than that. And the source uses a really fascinating historical analogy to explain how this educational defense actually works.
Okay, let's hear it.
It compares AI reasonability to the mathematics used in the Apollo space launch to the moon.
Wait, how does the moon landing relate to stopping an AI voice scam?
Think about the physics involved for NASA. They couldn't aim the rocket at where the moon was at the moment of launch. The moon is moving.
Right, it's orbiting.
Right, they had to use complex mathematics to project the trajectory of a moving target. They had to aim for empty space where the moon was going to be 3 days later.
Ah, I see. So the supercampus argues that AI reasonability is about understanding the trajectory of the technology.
Exactly. The text states, this education allows you to see 5 steps ahead. If you only teach your family to spot today's bad Photoshop, you're aiming at where the moon was yesterday.
Because by the time they learn that, the AI mafia is already using real-time video cloning.
Precisely. But if you educate your family on the mechanisms of AI, how it ingests data, how it synthesizes voices, how it targets emotional triggers, you are anticipating the trajectory.
You are projecting the moving target. So when the next iteration of a hyper-personalized phishing attack hits, you aren't fooled because you already understand the underlying logic of how the system operates.
Yep.
The human firewall isn't about writing better code to block the scam. It's about altering human behavior so fundamentally that malicious code becomes utterly useless against you.
Which perfectly aligns with one of the core mottos of the campus. A family that AIs together stays together.
Oh, I love that.
They are actively building an intergenerational curriculum.
Yeah.
They want the seniors, the parents, and the teenagers all learning this underlying logic simultaneously.
Because a vulnerability in one generation is a vulnerability for the whole family unit. The scammer might use the teenager's social media post to attack the grandfather's bank account. The text also uses the phrase, come for a day and stay for a lifetime, which makes a lot of sense now. Navigating the trajectory of AI is not just a one-and-done afternoon seminar. It requires continuous practice.
So we have the philosophical foundation of loving grace, we have the social science methodology of AI reasonability, and we understand the stakes, building a human firewall against this automated AI mafia.
Right.
But how do we actually execute this?
That is the big question. To see 5 steps ahead, everyday people need access to serious enterprise-grade tools. We can't fight global crime rings or build sustainable local movements with, like, a rusty pocket knife. What is the actual toolkit the supercampus curates for people?
The toolkit focuses heavily on shifting power from centralized tech monopolies back to local communities. And ironically, they do this by leveraging the existing Google ecosystem.
Yeah, the source points out that Google is a legacy company people are largely comfortable with already. They integrate resources from Grow with Google, which spans tools for startups, small businesses, and nonprofits.
But the real heavy lifters in their recommended toolkit are 2 specific AI applications, Gemini and NotebookLM.
Okay, let's talk about those.
The author highlights Gemini for its massive multimedia efficacy. It processes text, audio, video, and imagery, which feeds directly into that first pillar we talked about, human perception.
But the tool that really caught my eye in these notes is NotebookLM. For those listening who haven't encountered it yet, it's essentially an AI-assisted research and knowledge management tool. And the way it works is just brilliant for decentralizing power.
It really is.
Because instead of asking a general chatbot a question and hoping it doesn't hallucinate an answer from the random internet, you feed NotebookLM your own specific documents.
It acts as an incredibly focused synthesis engine.
Let's look at a real-world scenario of how someone could use this. Say you are a local journalist or even just an active PTA member. Your town council just released a 400-page PDF detailing a new zoning budget.
Nobody has time to read that.
Right. Normally, you wouldn't have the time to read that, so the power stays with the politicians who wrote it. But with NotebookLM, you upload that PDF along with, say, transcripts from the last 3 town hall meetings.
And then you just ask the AI.
Exactly. You ask it, how does this budget alter funding for school crosswalks compared to what was promised in March?
And the software just processes that immense data load instantly, finding the exact connections and contradictions across the documents.
It's amazing.
It handles the heavy lifting, freeing you up to apply those higher-level human pillars, imagining a solution and taking action at the next town meeting.
That is exactly how you decentralize power. You give a local citizen the analytical capacity of a 50-person research firm.
And within the super campus ecosystem, the output of all this synthesis takes a very specific, shareable form. They produce what they call an AI subject stack, hosted on the platform Substack.
I found this part of the notes really clever. They describe these outputs as mini-books, created in the tradition of study guides like Cliff's Notes, but they brand them as Claude's Notes or Mike's Notes.
It's a great concept.
The goal is deeply practical. Synthesize complex topics down to their most vital components to save the learner time while still delivering high-level insights.
But, and this is critical to point out, the Super Campus isn't running some automated content farm where bots just churn out summaries.
Right, it's not spam.
No, the text places massive emphasis on human editorial leadership. The AI tools are strictly assistants. The curation, the nuance, and the final judgment are entirely human.
Which brings us to the human editorial board mentioned in the sources. You have Mike Hayes, bringing his background as a Peabody Award-winning journalist and documentarian, Nagel Thomas, providing the Oxford-level business and organizational strategy.
And a third figure, right.
Yes. Joe Hughes, described as a respected local media professional with decades of experience in community storytelling.
That trio perfectly embodies the ultimate goal of the AI Super Campus. They aren't trying to build isolated tech hermits who just sit in their basements talking to chatbots. They are trying to create what they call movement makers.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? When we step back and look at this entire structure, from the Rockefeller Plaza Prometheus metaphor to the Oxford social sciences to the NotebookLM analysis, it is all pointed toward a massive reorganization, moving from centralization to localization.
Yeah, because for the last 2 decades, the internet has centralized power, attention, and money into the hands of a few massive tech hubs. The AI Super Campus envisions using these exact same conversational AI tools to push that power back out to your street corner.
They want local leaders to use AI-assisted narrative storytelling to build local legacy media movements. If Espoo, Finland, can use human narrative to become the most sustainable city in Europe, a local baker can use Gemini and NotebookLM to synthesize local demographic data and write a narrative marketing plan that unites their neighborhood.
Absolutely. The text says that a true leader, using these tools, can 10x the power of the message.
It reframes artificial intelligence entirely. It takes it from being this looming, anxiety-inducing job stealer into being a megaphone for the local voices, local businesses, and local families that usually get drowned out by global algorithms.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's an incredibly ambitious mission. The AI Super Campus is essentially an educational movement trying to weave together the historical wisdom of an institution like Oxford, the ground-level empathy of local community storytelling, and the absolute cutting-edge technological capabilities of Google and Anthropic.
Right.
They are building a framework to ensure humanity doesn't just survive the conversational AI frontier, but actually flourishes within it.
It requires a delicate, continuous balance of human perception and technological power.
It really does.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, there is one final, somewhat haunting thread woven throughout Mike Hayes' notes that I want to leave you, the listener, to mull over. Throughout the text, amidst all the practical strategies for protecting your family today, there are repeated warnings about the horizon.
The horizon of superintelligence.
Exactly. The text makes it very clear that the AI tools we are sparring with right now, the ones we use to analyze PDFs or spot voice scams, these are just the foothills. Systems vastly more capable than human cognition are approaching.
Dasky.
Very fast. And it leaves me wondering about the ultimate trajectory of this technology. If our current strategy, our human shield against the AI mafia and the chaos of the present moment, is practicing loving grace, which is a deeply human concept of empathy, safety, and goodwill. What happens when we reach that threshold of true superintelligence? We are training these models on our human definitions of grace and our constitutional rules right now. But when these systems eventually surpass our ability to fully comprehend their reasoning, will they simply maintain our human version of grace because we seeded it into their foundation?
Or will they grow past it?
Right. As they evolve, will they redefine what it means to be good entirely on their own terms, leaving us to adapt to their new narrative?
It brings us right back to the Prometheus paradox at Rockefeller Plaza. Once the fire becomes truly self-sustaining and hotter than we can measure, who ultimately decides what it burns?
And that is a question that will require every ounce of our human perception, reasoning, and imagination to answer. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the sources behind the AI Supercampus. Keep questioning the tools you use, keep learning the trajectory, and above all, keep your human firewall strong. We'll catch you on the next one.
I'm Mike Hayes, Editor-in-Chief of the AI Supercampus, and I approve this message.